Good evening. Welcome to our TI Technology webinar hosted by Texas Instruments. Whether you're new to teaching with graphing technology or looking for a refresher, welcome to the session, Mine Doesn't Look Like Yours, Part 1, as our presenters share problem-solving techniques and instructional strategies with the TI-84 Plus CE. I'm your host tonight. It's me, Ruth Casey. Thanks for being here. As we settle in, we want to look at the features of the WebEx panels that you have. If you can find the chat on your device, and it's in different places depending on the platform that you're using, if you can find the WebEx chat, it would be great to say hey to everybody and use the everyone option, not just to the panelists, because then we wouldn't be able to see, other people wouldn't be able to see it. So go ahead and tell us where you are. And for people just joining us, there's going to be information shared throughout using the chat panel. Okay, for questions, comments, important web links, URLs. So let's all take a few seconds and just look up and down the chat panel and see where everybody's coming from. As a reminder, our session is being recorded and will be available for viewing or reviewing later. If you experience audio or video issues that for some reason can't be resolved, just take a break and then feel free to watch the recording later. I am so pleased to have those outstanding educators with us tonight. Let's move on and see if we can get something about them. Share what you're learning. There we are, Corey and Tracy, joining us as presenters. Thank you so much. And tell us a little bit about yourself and say hi.
Oh, I was going to say ladies first, but okay. She pointed at me. I'm Corey Bobby. I'm her husband, and I teach online by choice. That's what I do for a living every day now. So hopefully I can make the switch to WebEx because I use Zoom every day.
I'm Tracy Watson, and I'm at the Arkansas School for Math, Sciences, and the Arts. My title is Math Specialist, but I do a little bit of teaching and supporting AP Statistics teachers in Arkansas. So tonight, what we're going to do you do this, Ruth?
No, it's you. It's you.
I'm used to this part being me.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to talk about some key calculator features. Our title is Mine Doesn't Look Like Yours. We're going to hopefully help you when a student says that to you, you'll know why by learning yourself about all the different things that are in the calculator. Students sometimes think we're like geniuses when I don't have to look at their calculator and tell them how to fix it. And it's just because I know a lot of different little things about the calculator. So we want to share those things with you about the home screen, graphs and tables. And along the way, we're going to do some problem solving. A big part of tonight is questions and answers, we hope. Any question you have, throw it out there. We hopefully, if we can't answer it, somebody, one of us here amongst the 79 of us, will know an answer, because we are all much better when we work together to solve problems and questions that everybody has. Oh, and then don't stay to the end because there's a webinar drawing. That's kind of important at the very end.
Do stay to the end, yes.
I said don't, didn't I?
It's okay.
Long day of teaching.
Yeah, it's been a long day. I guess I'll do this since she did the last one. This is a two-part series. When we were asked to do this, it was really to kind of do some of the basics with a little bit of a twist, that refresher of some things that might be different on the 84 CE or the newer operating systems, and just to kind of look for some things. So we're going to focus tonight on the home screen calculations for all those built-in features there. Then we're going to try to we'll get into some graphing features, and a part of that's a big part about trying to solve problems with the calculator is making sure your settings are in the right order. So we'll make sure you can modify the calculator settings. And of course, we can't help but always do some math. We love to try. We're always looking for connections. We're both big into that, so we're going to try to make connections between graphs, tables, and equations.
One more reminder, this is being recorded. So as they're going through some things with their software and their calculator strategies, remember you can tune in later, try it at your leisure with the devices that you and your students might be using.
I think are we ready to go? Okay. All right. Well, then I'm going to share my screen, and you're going to have to scoot over just a smidge. All right. She wants me to. So what we're going to do is use the. We'll use Smart Notebook. We both, before I was a virtual teacher, I did teach in a classroom. It's not like I've done this my whole life. But we don't really like our profile pictures that TI has for us anymore. They're not not indicative of what we're about anymore. So there's us on our motorcycle. And if either one of us accidentally falls and like hurts ourselves, it's probably because we're tripping over this corgi.
Yeah.
She's actually usually right under Tracy's feet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Smart Notebook and the emulator side by side. And I would really love it if you have questions, just put them in chat. Ruth will break in if it's something we haven't answered. Or we will get to it as we go. Tracy's got.
If I look over here, that's because I'm checking out the chat.
Yeah, she's got the chat going on over here. Normally, when you do these sessions, you have two different people in two different parts of the country. Because we're a married couple, we're able to do it together. So we're going to start with the home screen, and many of you know some things about it, but I do want to kind of just give you some shortcuts. So I always, anytime I pick up a calculator, I always do 2 plus 3 times 4. I don't know why. I guess just because it's 2, 3, 4. But
make sure it works.
Just to make sure it works, and I better get the answer 14. Okay, by order of operations. So no big deal. But one of the things that kids, if they make a mistake, they will type the whole thing over again. So one of the tricks and especially as we go along and we're doing multiple things, we may want to change that to, oh no, I misread that. That should have been minus. So what I did, and I think I did it too fast as I taught, I arrowed back up, and then I pressed enter. So let me delete this out of here. Yeah, clear this out of here. I arrowed back up onto what I want. Okay. Anything in the history, I can then, when I'm on it, I can press enter and it will paste it into the active line. So I could go back and I can change. And now I know some of you may be familiar, you can do second entry. I prefer to actually literally go back. Okay.
I think students they don't realize they can do that. And when they see that, I always tell them, it's like you're going up and pulling something down to make an edit. That's what going up, grab it and hit enter and it pulls down.
And second entry, I notice it says, I'll do it here in a second, but so I pressed enter and it now gives me whatever, -10. If I press second enter, it pulls the last line. And then when I hit second enter, it takes me to the previous line, but I can't get the answers by doing second entry. And if I second enter too many times, I'm out of luck. Okay. So I like the visual, and that's the way I prefer. So I want to change this to -13. Well, a lot of kids will get here and do minus, and then they'll type 1, and they're like, uh-oh, I messed it up. Well, there is a key thing here that I'm going to slow down. I really wanted to insert that 1, or right now I want to insert a 3. So if so many kids don't know this, second and then delete. Above delete, you see the INS button. That's not the Immigration and Naturalization Service. That's the insert.
Yes.
Oh, except I didn't do it. So I'm going to arrow back up. Like I said, I didn't actually press the 3. So sorry, second insert, and then actually put the thing I want to insert in there. That might have been a nice little twist to actually do what I said I was going to do. And then I get -50. So now with my blemish and all, I'm going to take that screen and dump it into my Smart Notebook. Now, Tracy, why did I do that?
Well, because at the end of the night, you're going to get a completed record of what we've talked about. And so if we keep remembering to dump our screens in, at the end of tonight, we'll clean this up and make it a completed PDF.
Okay.
And that way when you look back at this, we kind of have our outline and then what we actually did. So that way it kind of I like this because it brings back memories. I do this every day for my lessons. Even how bad my writing is, it doesn't matter. Sorry, Corey. Your writing.
My writing is terrible.
I capture what we've done. So it's kind of like a memory.
So I do this, I'm going to do this. And then again, if you didn't catch what I did, all I did, and so the next thing I'm supposed to do is do the square root of 17. Okay. So I would do square root symbol, and I get nice, pretty math symbols instead of parentheses, and I could do 17. All right. I could just take that screen off of the screen of my smart view, and I could drag it into a Google slide. I could drag it into PowerPoint, or does anybody use PowerPoint anymore? You use PowerPoint.
No, I don't.
You don't use PowerPoint.
I'm away from
Yeah,
PowerPoint now.
Yeah, we're okay. So anyway, I could take that, and then again, if you use Smart Notebook, or if you have a Smart Board or a Promethean board or whatever, you could just literally drag it in there. Now, there is an always on top feature of your Smart View. That's a teaching trick.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Okay.
Well, keep going. I'll interrupt you in a minute.
Okay. So is there
Would you mind showing the insert again? And I want to see exactly where it inserts. So if you go up.
And so I want to do like the square root of
157.
157. So I want to put a 5 there. So if I do, go ahead.
So notice it's going to insert it after the 1 is where we want the 157. So where it's blinking, it shifts everything else over. So
Tracy just loves the insert, and I think it's because she makes a lot of mistakes.
Yes. And yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. She makes a lot of mistakes. All right, I'm married, try to say that. Okay. So
that's
there
a
is
really nice use.
Yeah, and that simplifying radicals, somebody asked in chat, can we simplify radicals? It gives a decimal approximation. This is a numeric calculator. That would be a CAS operation. I know there are other models that do that, but the 80 that
may be able to find a program that does.
I have written a calculator program that would do simplifying radicals, but again, I would still that is technically considered CAS by the TI standards, and that would be something that the Inspire CAS would do or the 89 would do. Great questions, and we will have question time at the end. But if we see a question in chat, we can answer it. Please throw it in there. Don't worry. So okay, I'd have to find it or probably rewrite it.
Okay, next one.
Next one is these. Oh, I hit alpha and then window. Okay, most kids have figured out alpha and y equals. Okay.
Oh,
I guess
that's like a pop-up.
That's a pop-up. And if you ever had like an old flip phone, remember you had to press the buttons at the top of the screen, and then everybody's like, "Why aren't you split screen?" Because I'm using the 84 like I would in my classroom in a sense. But I also wanted to see that y equals is above y equals. You see F1, and that stands for fraction. So if I do alpha and then window, I'm actually getting the functions or the math functions. If I do alpha and then matrix, I can do matrix operations. I don't have time to do all of these, but if I go here, I guess I should do a fraction just for the sake of fractions. I can do 1/2. Now I find the fraction template super annoying. Oops, I guess I shouldn't put a plus in there. I know what you're saying. You just let me do my thing. She's trying to break in and I'm not letting her. I found the fraction template kind of annoying. If you don't know this, and the updated calculators in your CE alpha and then X, if you see the fraction template above the XT theta n, if you have older model calculators that are color, the CE models or whatever the versions are, if you update their operating systems, you'll have this functionality, alpha X. It just won't be painted on there like it is right now. Okay, so the paint is a relatively new feature because I think I have a Python here that has it painted on. And I think I have my old, here's my old 84 CE, which is great. It's the one I've had for a long time, but it's not painted on there. Okay.
Did you catch that? Instead of doing the alpha y equals to get that menu to pop up to do the fraction. All he did was alpha, the key right next to it, xt theta n, and you get the fraction template. Oh my gosh, show your kids that.
And so the other thing is, if you want a decimal, I think you have to get a decimal in, decimal out. If you put fractions in, you'll get fractions out. Now, if you want a decimal to a fraction, there is a command for that. There is the alpha fraction to decimal command that would let you take a decimal into a fraction.
Yeah, it'll go both ways. But I love that quick way of getting the decimal version for fraction, of just putting a decimal in there somewhere. And then you're just telling the calculator, hey, I want my answer in decimals now instead of fractions.
But that's also why kids will say, "What? Mine's broken. Mine didn't give me a fraction. This is the mine's different than yours thing."
Mm-hmm.
If they get a decimal, now the other way that it could have been is, isn't there a fraction decimal setting somewhere?
Fraction type.
Fraction type.
Oh, that's a type.
Where is that? Oh, it's. Oh, oops. No, I thought there was one that was always, or is I'm thinking different model here.
That's all right.
Numerical. Okay, anyway, I'm messing up.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right,
Okay.
so I'm getting distracted.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. But I really want you to notice the functions menu. There are some great things. I'm currently teaching calculus online, so I'm using derivatives and integrals.
I'm teaching college algebra, so log base. We're working on this now.
Log base 7 of 49. I better get 2, and I do. So there's no reason to do change of base anymore, because you don't have to. Well, I guess maybe you can, but whatever. All right. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about is the solve command. Is that what we had in mind here? So
you need to know this is on your calculator.
Okay, so there's the basic calculation. We're going really slow than we should, or we're taking more time. That's why she's brushing me. If you use the templates, those are great, but there's also the math command. Here is where you can get cube roots and higher order roots. You can actually do min, max, and derivatives here. Log base from this menu. But if you go down, always the last thing forever and ever, amen, is going to be numeric solver. If you don't know this is on here, your kids might figure this out. Numeric solver is it will solve it. So what I have here,
numerically solve equations.
So I can put 2x squared minus 3x. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't. Yep. Yeah, what I'm doing tonight. Minus 3x. Oh, it'd be nice to put a 3 there, wouldn't it? And minus 7. And then this other side of the equation is 0.
So that E1 and E2 is like expression 1, expression 2 for the two sides of an equation. And so now when I hit the OK, notice it's a soft key OK. So in the calculator, Corey's going to hit graph.
And I'm going to give it...
you see the equation put together now.
I'm going to give it a guess. So I think the answer is 4. I have to give it... I have to give it a guess. And then I solve, and it will give an answer. Now, what's wrong with my solution to that one?
Oh, what do we know?
What do we know as mathematicians that the kids don't know about the answer here? What's wrong with that answer? Oh, I got it. That's the other thing when you're doing...
sometimes when you pull the screen over, if it's flashing on top of something, you might catch it when it's the dark flash.
Yeah, I caught it while in mid-flash. So what's wrong? Can you tell me in chat? Why is this answer...
I'm not going to say it's wrong, but...
How many solutions should I get to a quadratic equation? It's incomplete.
I like that. Incomplete.
Yes, it's not wrong. It's only half of the answer. It's only one of the two possible answers. Okay. So, but the kids will discover this solver, and you will be like, there are plenty of solver apps out there. I'm not going to say any names because I don't want to get sued or anything, but it's on our own friendly 9084 or TI-84. Okay.
And so the reason it found this particular one was based off of his guess.
Yes.
That was the one that was closest. And he just totally guessed. He
Yeah, I
has no
just picked
clue.
4. I think I picked 4.
Yeah.
And it gave me that.
Mhm.
Okay. So
We just want to make sure that's something that's in the calculator that teachers need to be aware it's there in case like a student would come up with this answer, not have work. Where did it come from?
yeah.
And they're only getting one of the 2 answers, so this would be one place that they could have gotten it.
And they can get lost in this. It can be pretty it can get pretty ugly pretty quick if they don't know what they're doing. Okay.
I don't have the solve on the bottom.
It should be under math, and
then
it should
go
you can
up will get you to the bottom.
it should be numeric solver.
Numeric solver.
Okay, it's under your math button, and then it's the very last thing on your math. Okay.
I think that's actually been there from.
It's been there for a long
time.
Long time. Okay. So, and it may give you the wrong answer.
Oh, it just says solver.
Yeah.
It
Oh, yeah. It might be called solver. I think
Okay.
depending on the model, and it does operate differently if you have an 83 or an
Yeah.
older, like black and white 84. It has been improved significantly. It's actually a lot easier on the CE.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's not really a problem solving technique. It's more of an awareness factor. Okay.
So to answer the question, because you don't have that solve on the screen because it's an older version of it, hitting enter instead of solve the graph key and the solve goes away.
Yeah, I have
So,
to go back.
Yeah, I had to get my one and go look
I'd have
at
to
it.
go back and look, and we don't really have time to play with that now.
Yeah.
So, but if you want to holler at us in an email, we can help you with the
Yeah, I
older
had to
model.
find my older model.
Yeah, I don't. So, okay. I want to move on to perhaps my favorite home screen calculation thing, and it's really I've done this with really little kids, like elementary school kids, on basic calculators. And I guess maybe I'm just a calculator nerd from back in the day. When I was a little kid, I had with the red numbers on it and stuff. I would do 2 plus 2 enter equal, and it would count 2, 4, 6, 8. And I just thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Okay, and I still do that sometimes when I'm bored in meetings. Okay, or whenever Tracy's talking. Okay, so we have and this is a pretty silly, simple problem, but we all see problems like this, and we have it counting from starting at 5 to join a subscription fee and a $2 download. That's kind of outrageous, but whatever. I wish I could find that. So there's $5 to begin. And then if I add 1 movie to that, it costs me 7. And then 2 would cost me 9. And 3 would cost me 11. Have any of you ever done this before and then just like lost?
Oh, wait, how many movies?
I
You're
lost
hitting it too fast.
I hit it too fast and I lost count. Okay. So again, just to set that up, you got to give it a seed, okay? Whatever your seed is or your beginning thing, and then you give it an operation. And notice I just hit plus, and it grabbed the 5 from before, and then hit +2, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4. But again, Tracy's right. I'm going to lose count real quick, okay? So I want to kind of show you a way that I like to do it. That gives me that counter. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to use lists. Okay, and technically it doesn't matter. You don't have to tell kids you're using a list, but we want to start with 5, and then we're going to do comma 0. That would be the price if I bought 0 movies, which would be really stupid, but.
Yeah, and he's not using the parentheses. He's using the second functionality of the parenthesis button. It's the curly brackets.
Yeah, that's the braces, I think. Yeah, braces is the technical name. But I use that to count how many movies. So I put $5 for downloading 0 movies. Okay, so that's my seed, and I'm letting the kids know that 5's my amount and the 0's the number of movies. So now if I hit, I got to do another set of braces here. I can't just press plus here. I have to set up a new one. I'm going to do answer, and then most people don't know they can do this. Answer 1. It's the first component of the answer above, and I'm going to take that and add 2 to it.
Okay.
So I'm going to take the first component of that ordered pair above and add 2 to it.
So that's going to be the 5 plus 2. That'll give me 7.
And then I'm going to take the answer in the second spot.
And you're using parentheses
This
here.
yeah, an answer to the second answer. And to that, I'm going to add 1. Why am I adding 1 to that then, Tracy?
Okay, so you're adding $2, and that's the cost of one movie.
Okay, so if I hit enter, what should I get?
7, comma 1.
Okay, now I don't actually get the comma there, but that's fine. Yeah,
I see comma.
the kids can see comma there. So that means I have $7 to get one movie. And now I can go crazy again.
Yeah.
And I counter.
Okay, so if you have $50, you better stop. You can only do 22 movies.
That's enough. I can watch it. I can watch 22 movies. Okay, and I should have done it before I caught. So
that's a really nice way, I think. And for those of you that teach sequences and stuff, you can kind of see how hopefully you can see how you can use this for helping to teach some sequences. You know, talking about which term and what the change is and everything.
And again, we're going to add more to this when we get to these slides and PDF them for you. So that's what's going to be in the folder. Okay. So I like that counter because then I can tell how much for each movie. Okay. We do want to do a few other buttons. I guess we already did math, but I can't not do Jeff McCullough's favorite thing in the world. You'll see this a lot on the ACT or maybe the SAT. What's the GCF of, let's pick like, I don't know, 8, 12, and 20. I'm not sure these are even good numbers. I probably should have thought of it. They look like numbers to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if I wanted to do the GCF of those, gosh, I'd have to do some factor trees, and I don't remember whether I want the common ones or the I don't remember. Okay. So, there is we already looked at the math menu and we looked at the solver. I'm not going to do the derivative or anything because not everybody teaches calculus. But when you're in this math button, it's a super powerful button. You can go over to number and you'll see rounding and more there's min, max, but there's also LCM, GCD, remainder, and some more fraction stuff. Okay. We want the least common multiple. Okay. But I want the least common multiple of 8. And then I'm going to do, it's 8 comma, and I can do 12. Okay.
What the least common multiple or greatest common factor?
Oh, I did. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I picked the wrong thing.
Right.
Thank you.
Could have stuck with that.
Nag. That's what I'm sorry. I can't say that in a meeting, can I? All right. GCF. Oh, actually, I did want the least common multiple. I did want, well, it doesn't matter. I guess I do want to do the least common multiple. Sorry, you should have said, I didn't even think about it. Yeah. Okay, so we want to do the least common multiple. It would work the same way either way, but y'all laugh at me. That's fine. I don't care.
They know the answer is 4 for the question we.
Yeah, that was the least common multiple of 8, comma 12. The way the command works is it only does 2 things at once. Okay. Now I could take that number and do the least common multiple of 24 and 20 is what I said, right?
And Jeff McCullough says usually on the ACT they always do 3 numbers. So it's not just, if students know about this, they might not think to use it because it's built for 2 numbers.
Yeah, it's built for 2 numbers, so it's 120. Okay, but and again, this is because I teach ACT prep sometimes too. I can do the least common multiple, or gosh, I don't even know which one I want to do anymore. I could do 8, comma, and then I can go back into the math button and do least common multiple again, and then do 12, comma 20. Okay. And I could nest a least common multiple within another least common multiple. Now, this takes a little bit of knowing what you're doing, or at least understanding. But once you've seen that a couple times, and I could theoretically have done 4 or 5. I don't think I've ever seen more than 3. But it's a pretty slick little trick.
And I'm thinking of the math teaching here that you could use. You're teaching them an ACT little trick math thing, but now getting them to understand why it works, I think, is incredibly powerful.
That would be, yeah.
Since we showed that we're getting the same thing both ways and also doing it by hand. Somebody asked, do we have a suggested list of calculator shortcuts for students to take the ACT?
There is a wonderful 1, 2, or 3 day ACT workshop that TI offers.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever developed like a list of
No, but there's
things.
a really great
It's-
workshop. It's probably one of the best workshops. And Jeff was one of the authors, and I don't want him to think I like him or anything, but
Yeah.
you know, he's a good guy. Anyway, it really is that if you ever can get a chance to do that, either in person or virtual, I would
Yeah,
recommend
it's
it.
like leveraging the
If
calculator
you're for the ACT or
something
SAT.
like that.
There's an
Yeah.
SAT version of it too.
Yeah, it's a really good
But I don't think there's a straight up list. So
Yeah.
okay, thank you for that question, Seth. So there is also I couldn't.
Look at the probability
Yeah,
menu.
oh, God.
Yes, I'm statistics, so I love the probability.
She's a stats person.
Yeah.
So there is all kinds of, and this is a lot of people use the random integer feature to select this. You could like select, and it's so much nicer now. I can give a lower number, so I can call 1 to 25. So you might have 25 students, and I also can pick like 5 of them, 5 numbers instead of just 1. Okay. So when I do that, it does paste the command in there, but I like that it's a menu. It's a little more easily understand. So this time it picks.
We're gonna have a problem though.
'Cause
We're giving out gifts to
it did
5 of our students.
It did replication, so I can just do it again.
No, go back to the thing. Go back to your menu.
Oh my!
Am I going to show you something?
Probably.
Go over to the probability. Look at the last option.
Oh yeah, no repeats.
No repeats.
So you can do
fantastic.
Yep. So there's one where it will repeat and one where it doesn't repeat. Same logic. So, okay.
Oh, TI has a document called Standardized Test Best Practices for the 84 plus CE.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to need to look that
Yeah,
up.
I'll have to look that up. So.
If Mary doesn't find it, we'll make sure we find it and put it in our documentation.
Okay. So, I'm gonna.
All right. So what else?
What else? Okay. I jumped ahead on this one, so I'm going to go past that. We already done that.
Okay. We already showed you about the shortcut to get the fraction template.
Yeah.
We'll paste the stuff in there just as
yeah,
a
we'll
reminder.
clean this up and make it nice and pretty when we hand it out. Okay, so probably the biggest problem I think that a lot of people run into is kids will do all kinds of crazy stuff that doesn't help you with anything, and then like you get stuck. So the biggest thing is a lot of times mode is your best friend. Okay, when you press mode, most of the main things should be along the left side, okay? And that's the default operation. Everything is along the left side.
Highlighted on the left.
Highlighted on the left.
That's kind of like the standard, unless you get in there and mess with something, which we know students do, especially if it's a friend calculator, they give it back to them and it's not working right.
Yeah.
But so typically everything to the left should be highlighted for your standard operation of the calculator.
We'll kind of explain, we'll type this up later and explain, but the first line, Math Printer Classic, Math Print does those templates where you can fill in things like when we were doing the logarithm, fill in the thing, the base. Classic, everything's parentheses. It's
if you want to see how the calculator
used to work,
you know, probably, unless you're young, how it used to be. Well, that's the classic mode, and sometimes I'll turn the kids to that to scare them.
No, I don't want to do that. So normal scientific or engineering format. If your kids are getting scientific notation for everything, they're in scientific mode. What they've done is somebody's gone down and pressed enter and made the psi darkened. Okay, the number of decimals can be fixed. I really kind of almost want to do this to my calculus kids and fix it to 3, the AP kids, so they see 3 decimals and they write them all down. They don't have to worry about rounding or that. But the biggest problem, at least for is the radian degree.
Yeah, for trig and
geometry and calculus and physics. I just had this conversation this week with one of my calculus students. He got several questions wrong because he came from physics and had his calculator in degree mode. You can change the way the graphing works. When anything's to the left, it's going to mess with the way the calculator behaves. Okay.
Now, if you go back to the home screen and you're not on this, you'll notice up at the top, it actually is showing us some of those settings that Corey changed. So here's the screen capture: normal, float, auto, real, radian. MP is the math print. But now he just made some adjustments. And if he pulls over this screen capture, we can see what he adjusted. The normal became scientific, float became fix 3. We didn't change the auto stuff. And then let's see, degree, we changed that. So I sometimes, if I remember, can look up there to know if something's going wrong.
And you can do that real quick and like be a rock star to your kids. Say, hey, I bet your calculator's in degree mode. And they're like, yeah, it was. How'd you know? Because I can read. Okay. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yep.
If I can ever be snarky with a kid and get away with it, maybe I shouldn't. All right.
Okay. So
But so that's the mode setting. But many people don't realize that there is also a setting for the graphs. Okay. I pressed second and then zoom to access this menu. All right.
it's the format menu for graphing, because it's using those graphing keys across the top of the calculator. So it's affecting your graphing of stuff.
And again, the defaults are generally to the left, although you may want to change them. For example, I actually really like the grid lines now on certain situations. When I press graph now, I get little graph paper instead of blank grids. Okay, so second, format lets me change the behavior of my graph settings. Okay, so all right. Thank you and so we'll fill all that out later on, but that was number 4. We still have, we still good.
Graphing, yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
you're
looking at Julie's question, so you go ahead and I want to see if we can address hers in amongst this.
Okay, so Julie, we'll get to your question here in a minute, but first, I'm going to go ahead and press Y equals. A couple things you want to look at. Again, you want to make sure that you have things set to the correct ways. Okay. And I think I didn't do anything too bad there. Okay. So I want to have all these plots turned off. Okay. One of the biggest problems with kids in there is that this one would be like darkened and they may have data matte, and that's where you'll get a dim mismatch error.
Yeah.
If you ever see dim mismatch error, check to see that your plots are deactivated. Okay. So that's one thing that you'll run into. You also, we'll come back around to this later, hopefully, about they may be in an application. Okay, but we'll have to get to that later.
Yeah.
So let's do a parabola, and I'm gonna just do x squared plus 1. I know it's boring, but I'm trying to get to Julie's question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can graph this. Okay. And I can do a couple things here. I can, so that, first of all, I can adjust my window. Oh, am I?
What window are you
What
in?
window am I in? Okay, so let me get back to that because everybody presses, I was totally wrong. I press Y equals, then what do? Everybody does zoom 6. And by the way, one thing I have learned, I'm sorry if I talk really fast, but I feel like we're trying to do a lot in an hour, but I always scroll. I know I can press 6. Everybody goes, Mr. Bobby, you can press 6. I'm like, I know, but I'm always the last one to try. I scroll and then I wait a little while and say something stupid and then I press enter.
Yeah, because that's going to give the students time to catch up with you because he does talk fast. And so as he's zoom and then he says zoom 6, and so the students tend to hit zoom 6, but he's using the arrow keys to scroll down instead of, so it just slows them down.
Yeah, it slows me.
That's the kids.
It slows me down, lets the kids catch up and see where I'm going.
Now, what did you just do?
So when I'm tracing, and when I press graph, I'm in the standard window. When I trace, we get ugly numbers. Okay, so this does not make me happy as a human being. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to suggest you go to zoom and choose zoom decimal. And now when I trace, I'm going to trace and get nice numbers. Now this is a smaller window. Okay, this was the window I was in before, it's -6 to 6. No, sorry, -6.6 to 6.6 and blah, 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 blah. That's not big enough for you. You can go over here and do ×2.
Because most textbooks problems are written for our standard -10, 10 window, but the tracing's not nice. So doing zoom decimal and then actually multiplying all the maxes and mins by 2, Corey likes to call this the
The double decimal window.
double decimal window. It is really close to the 10 by 10 window.
Now I'm losing a little on the Y, but when I graph it now, I'm relatively 10 to 10. And when I trace, now I'm tracing in steps of 2/10 instead. Much better window. And then one other thing, because this wasn't really what I planned, but I can't ever stop myself once I start doing this. You got zoom going here, and you have other options that are great, but it took me longer than it should have to realize there is a memory in the zoom. If you press the right arrow, I could actually go back to my previous window, but if you choose zoom store, you get to store one customized favorite window, and I usually do the double decimal. Okay. So again, you guys, please explore these other windows. There's certainly like trig. If you teach pre-cal, you might really use this one. I know a lot of people use zoom stat. Zoom square is another great option, but I like to double the decimal window and then store it. And then, so if I go back and do zoom 6, I get my ugly window that I hate. I just hate this window.
Because that's not the true look of the parabola.
Yeah, it's a
We all know
distortion.
that.
It's a distortion, all right? So if I go to zoom memory and then do recall, it takes me straight back to my double decimal window quickly. Okay?
And that's truly a parabola. That's one thing I actually probably talked about it too long in my classroom this year. My kids just kind of were like, they never thought about that. You know, you're getting a distortion using the standard window.
And okay, so I'm going to kind of get to Julie's question.
He wants to do half a parabola.
Okay, now I'm going to show you something, and that maybe then I'm going to try to answer a question. Okay. All right, so I can, inverse of a function is a reflection of the line y equals x. So I could go here and press second and then draw. This is not, second and then draw. Is that not working? There it is. Second and then draw. There is a command called draw inverse. Okay, and I'm going to draw the inverse, and I put the function into y1. I can then press alpha and then trace.
So he's using that soft key stuff from the home screen again to call y1. And
if I do draw inverse, it does draw a reflection over the line y equals x, but of course, and I can even verify that by putting x on here, and it'll look right because it's a proportionally correct window. But that reflection is not a function.
Right. So it's draw inverse. It's not draw inverse function.
Yeah, it's literally doing the reflection. So Julie, that is not what you want. Okay. But it is it's a really great conversation. This is exactly how I taught inverse functions. Okay. So the grid lines came from second and format, which was the second zoom, the format menu, and I made grid lines. Okay.
That's so nice.
That's so nice. And you totally can use that right now. Okay. But that draw inverse feature does not make a function. So what I would have to do is go into my y equals, and I would actually have to limit the domain of this function to be something that when I reflect it, that's the only way I think I could.
Less than 0.
Yeah. So what I would have to do here is insert a parenthesis and then insert another, or put a parenthesis on the end. And this is an old school way of doing it.
I was going to say, you're doing old school.
Yeah. I could limit this. I can do the function, and then I'm going to divide it by x is greater than 0. That second test lets me get to the greater than or equal to, which is right there. And when I do this, I'm going to lose my full parabola, but if I do the draw inverse command here, again, I guess I could have just hit. That's all right. Now it's going to draw the inverse, and the inverse would be an actual function. So I have to talk about limiting the function to be able to have a reflection that is still a function.
Now, are you going to show them the other way to do it? That is an old school way of restricting the domain.
Yep.
Because you're using division. We're taking advantage of dividing by something. When it evaluates that division, it either evaluates it at 1 or 0.
Yep.
So when it's less than 0, you can't divide by 0, you have nothing. When it's bigger than 0, then it's 1, and so you get the function. But there's something really sweet.
And this, again, we're going wherever you guys want us to go because of your questions. If I just wipe that whole thing out, if I press math in the y equal, while I'm in the y equals, I can go here, and we saw it earlier. I kind of glossed over it, but there's piecewise.
Piecewise.
Okay, now I can do piecewise function with many pieces. Okay, but if I do, and I can up that, or I guess I'm going to go left or right. I can go up to 5. And in this case, I want a piecewise with only one piece because I want the restriction. So I think I did x squared plus 1. And then in the field, the conditions field, I could do x is greater than or equal to, what did I say, 0.
Yeah.
Okay. And that would give me a function using the piecewise template. I like because it looks like it should.
It really looks like that restricting the domain idea.
So, okay.
Is there a way to copy a function from y1 into y2 line?
Yes. Okay, so to math, up arrow to numeric solver, there's piecewise to get it. So, Emily, that's how I got to piecewise. Okay. And I haven't done this in a while. Is it recall? Yes, it's second recall. And then I have to say recall. I'm going to put y, I was in y3, so I'm going to do recall alpha trace. And I can do recall y1, and it copies it into y3.
Sweet.
And
a little
so
bit of copy paste there. Where was that recall again?
Where was recall? Above the stow. You got to go to the stow so you can recall. All right?
That's something that I don't know if I've ever used that. I think I learned something tonight.
All right. And the reason you'd want that is because maybe you'd want to change, you might want to change the restriction. Maybe I wanted it to be x less than 0. I only wanted to change the direction of the inequality. I could go back and edit it in y3.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So that is not what we had planned to do. But again, this session was advertised as bring your calculator and your questions, and that's exactly what y'all are doing. So, okay.
Okay. Did we do it? I think we did our skill 5 list.
Yeah.
Again, we'll pretty up the smart.
I don't care. I'm Mary's new favorite person. That's good enough for me. Okay. We got like 7 minutes left. So I'm gonna clear this out, and I'm gonna clear this out, and I'm just in the interest of time, I'm gonna make this -3 because I don't want to come up with a new equation. All right. You may know this, but kids will totally mess this up. It's important to be able to find that 0 of a function. So I needed a function that crossed the x-axis.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were using the solver earlier to solve, but we could use second and then the calculate menu. This feature allows you to, the 0, the minimum, the maximum all work in similar manners.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to find the 0 or x-intercept.
The x-intercept. So what I'm going to do is you have to, and they've gone different terms. They've used upper and lower. It's no matter what you do, left or right, it's can be confusing. Kids don't really understand but the improvements on it lately have really helped. I want them to be to the left of it in regard to the x-axis. So I press enter.
The 0.
For the left of the 0. So notice it puts this little vertical line there. And I really like that. What I tell the kids is you want to capture the x-axis between the 2 vertical lines. And I have that. So see those 2 dotted lines there? That x-intercept is the 0 is between the 2. Then I just got to get close. And boy, the kids really want to try to get right ahead. They're like, I'm like, just get in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Just get there.
Area.
Honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you only have 1 0, it's going to find that 1 and only 0 no matter where you are. in that interval. Only like we did when we did before, depending on the guess, it may go one way or the other. So
Now, one thing I started doing this year, because I showed them this to students about how they can use this feature to actually solve any equation, get 0 on one side, graph that expression, and then you're just finding the 0. And I started making sure I started asking them, what is the 0 in between? So they're kind of giving me a bounds for the solution so that they're actually, especially with the grid turned on, they can actually see, oh, it's between 1 and 3. And then actually, instead of moving, I have them type in the left bound and lower bound by using their number keys. And so it kind of really got across who really understood what we were doing or just learning how to get something to come out of the calculator.
okay, so I put in a second function here, and I'm not sure who I asked the sequential.
Samuel.
Samuel asked. Sequential is the default mode. Sequential means it's going to graph the first function and then the second, and then I may even put a third one on here, like sine of x. Okay, so when it graphs these, it's going to graph. And if I do, I'm in degree mode. That's why it didn't come out real nice. So let me fix that.
You were expecting a little bouncing, weren't
Yeah.
you?
But if you notice, it did the half the parabola, then the line, and then the sine curve. It did them in sequence.
Remember, when you're on the smart view, you're on a computer, it's a whole lot faster than what the kids are saying.
Yeah,
I forget that sometimes.
Yeah, when I'm using the processing power of my MacBook Pro, I can always watch it real quick. Ready?
Yeah. Okay.
Clear draw makes it redraw it, by the way, under that draw menu. I do like the draw menu. But if I change to simultaneous, and if it's slower, so okay, let me see if I can do this now. I didn't do it fast enough. You can actually press enter and make it stop drawing. I just couldn't.
Like stop in the middle, but
yeah, I can't get.
Computer's too fast.
My computer's too fast. But if you're graphing them, you can actually sometimes you can hit enter and it'll stop in the middle and pause it, and then you can talk about what you want to see and then hit enter again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like taking the X's and putting it in all of them and going across the screen. So instead of doing one, then doing the other, and then doing the last. I'd be curious. I wonder if on students' calculators, if you switch that, if it would be any faster.
There, I got it.
Just barely.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever had students change that.
No, that one doesn't come up very often, but I sometimes use that to make a point. There's an activity that's really nice about the unit circle where it's in parametric mode where you're graphing the circle and the trig function at the same time.
Elizabeth said to turn stat diagnostics on to graph slower.
I've not done that. Oh, I'm in pause mode now because I actually did catch it. So, and you hit, and like I said, I just had to do it real quick. My stat diagnostics are off. Boy, this breaks my heart to turn these on. I hate these.
Yes.
I don't know. Well, I don't want them on by default. I want them off by default. So if I try it now.
Yeah. So it's interesting doing the clear draw to get it to redo it.
It didn't really do it. It didn't really slow me down.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. I'm sorry. We're running out of time and we still had one other thing. But I'm not going to get to do tables. Maybe we'll do that in part 2. But I really just at least want to turn this app on. This is another what if the kids go into something like Inequalz. Maybe we'll try to talk about that next time too. Kids will get in here and they'll do stuff and like they just play around because they're not afraid like us to break things. So they went in here and they turn on. They try these things, and if they hit Inequalz, it doesn't do anything, and they're like, "Oh, I broke it, so I'm just gonna quit. I'm gonna continue and get out of this," and nothing happened. But when you do this one, if you're trying to solve problems, if you see this or quit app, okay, that means the same thing would happen with transformation graphing, and there are a few other things, there are a couple other apps. But if you see this up here and their calculator is not behaving the way that it should, you just simply go to
the quit app.
You can go up and go over here and choose quit app. Now we can talk about inequalities if you want, but if they quit running the inequality app, then it will graph again. All right.
Yeah, just sometimes it will graph, but sometimes it won't. It depends what all is going on there. So if you see anything more than the plot 1, plot 2, plot 3 up there, and they're saying things aren't working right,
Yeah.
it's because some app is turned on that has a purpose. And we'll start off part 2 talking about the app, because this is the Inequality app is a really good one.
Oh, it's a great app, but
yeah, notice X equals, yes, you can graph vertical lines if you have this app turned on. Very nice. That's why we should show it. So I do want to go back to skill 7. We don't have time for skill 7, but I did want to go back to someone's comment early on about when we were doing fractions. If your y equals was created with a fraction and you go to the tables, fractions will be in the tables too. It kind of, that fraction template tries to really go everywhere it can. So, I mean, that was something, it was a while ago that somebody asked about fractions in the tables. So
we did a lot of things. I didn't even think we'd get, I'm surprised we got everything done as much as we did. And y'all asked lots of questions. So are there any other last minute questions? I saw a heart flashing on my screen, so I think that was good.
I think that's good.
I think, Ruth, you need to do some things. We need to turn it back over to you. Is that correct?
All right. Thank you. Continue asking questions in the chat, sharing questions, sharing comments over there in the chat. Okay. They'll be monitoring those as we go along. We also want to move to the next part, which is going to be, yes, a drawing. All right. So you get your choice of calculator model shown there in the screen. Okay. And let's see. The winner is Gerald Oberg. Congratulations, Gerald. I'll try to put that in the chat here in a minute. All right. Congratulations, Gerald. Thank you for being there and for winning. Congratulations. Okay. Let's see what else we need to do. We need
there's my tiny URL again of where the document will be when we clean it up.
All right. Document that you can also get a copy of the slides, which not my slides, not their slides, just my slides. The host slides, and there's a URL for that. This will be coming in email to you, but you'll need to attend to information from Tracy and Corey about the tiny URL, and that was in your chat window. All right, so congratulations to Gerald. Remember, you can save this chat. Save chat is an option on many of the platforms where we're using. If you want to create a certificate of attendance for today's event, whenever you're watching it, there we go. So that's our certificate of attendance. Okay, part 1. Tracy, Corey, part 1. When's part 2?
April.
May, something like that. It's later this
April.
April? Yeah, so
you told us it was.
check that webinar website on education.ti.com.
You can April 20th. April 20th.
Yeah, there's another one. Okay, so move up and down the chat. Be sure you didn't miss something important, and you can save that chat on many of your platforms there. I'll put the link to the certificate of attendance again. Link to the certificate of attendance is currently in the chat right now. If you're on a platform, mobile device, and you don't have access to the chat, never fear. Information will be coming to you in an email as a registered viewer of this event. It'll come to you information about where to find the documents and how to create a certificate of attendance. So there will be email about that, or you can copy down that short URL right there. All right, we are winding down. Post-webinar follow-up. There's some survey questions, some other stuff going on. And you found this webinar tonight, and you can register for more. Yes, there's part 2. And if there's a webinar that you're interested in, look back in the recorded sessions, the ones that have already happened. Find out what's there. And remember, this one is being recorded for viewing later. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to continue looking in the chat. It's still active. If you want to have comments, questions for Tracy and Corey. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for coming and
Yep.
having some fun with us.
Yep. Thanks.